This episode is centers the lived experience of childhood and military sexual trauma. Our conversation is not just about trauma. It's about transformation. Hi, I'm Dr. Juanita Britt McDonald, and you're here in the Elevation in Action podcast room. And we're excited to have our amazing guest, Miss Jacqueline Odom, founder of Sew and Heal. Sew and Heal organization is a nonprofit organization that focuses on supporting women and veterans. And it is a unique program that I can't wait for you to hear. Now, the one thing that I want to share with you before we begin and introduce our guest is that this will be a little touchy topic. So I want to give you a little warning as you prepare to listen to this segment and take in the nuggets that our guests will share. I want to invite you to be very conscious of your own inner triggers. And so this means that I need you to ground yourself. I need you to take care of yourself. If you need to step away, let's do that. And then if you need support, please make certain you get that. In this podcast today, we will be offering information that will be on the little ticker that's at the bottom of the screen. That information will also have contact numbers and that you can go to for resources and support. So I just want to give you that warning. And so as we prepare, let me tell you a little bit about Miss Odom, Jacqueline Odom. You're going to hear me say Jacqueline over Jacqueline. So let me tell you a little bit about Jacqueline before, as she's preparing to come up. First of all, her organization, as I shared earlier, is Sew and Heal, which is a nonprofit. It is dedicated to empowering women, veterans, and women in the community by providing a safe and supportive space for healing through sewing. Have you ever heard of that? Healing through sewing. That's very unique, right? This organization is founded by a veteran, and those are more things that you're going to get an opportunity to hear about. And so her mission is to foster emotional well-being and creative connection. So with that, not only has she created this nonprofit organization, but guess what? She And as I have learned through her with her associate degree, we both took up accounting. But as I shared with her, I struggled. So let's do this here. Let's bring our guests up so we can have an amazing conversation. So do me a favor, join me as I welcome Miss Jacqueline Odom, founder of Sew and Heal.
Hi.
Hey, Jacqueline, how are you?
Fine.
I tell you, I did kind of talk over or stepped on that tongue as I was delivering, but I hope I did you justice.
Yes, you did.
So before we begin, Jacqueline, I just want to let people know how I first met you and what I learned about you. And so Jacqueline and I really have never worked together. We really don't know each other and what we do. But I was introduced to her by my partner. And so when she shared about what she does, I actually had an event that was coming up, which centered on domestic violence and sexual assault in the military. And so her name was given to me and I invited her and immediately she said yes. We had an amazing event, spoke to some phenomenal people, and I learned so much about sewing. And I shared with her how my mom was a seamstress. And so to see what Jacqueline created from sewing and how sewing helped her and healed her, it reminded me of my mom who had been through so much trauma. and she loved to sew. And you could always find her at that sewing machine. And so to hear that Miss Jacqueline used sewing as a healing tool, was what my mom was doing. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, it's so amazing some of the things that we use that helps us in our mental state. Would you say?
Mhm. Right? You're right.
Yeah, so that
Yes,
is
you're
so,
absolutely correct.
yeah, that's so awesome. So I want to jump right on in. Now,
Okay.
Jacqueline, this is the thing. I want to learn a little bit more about you, the little girl, the little
Mhm.
girl that was growing up before the trauma. Tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about her.
So the little girl before the trauma was a nice little girl. I was very quiet, didn't say much. Almost stayed to myself. I grew up in a two-parent home until a certain part of my childhood. I grew up with my mom and my dad, um, all my grandparents, and it was just as I can remember from way, that young age. My childhood was amazing.
I could tell because the way you said it when you went back in time, your head kind of tilted and it was like you were remembering that
Yeah.
happy little girl.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Now you made a big jump and decided to go into the military.
Yeah.
What?
That was not my plans when I
Okay.
was supposed to be a lawyer. That I was supposed to be an
Okay.
attorney. But life switched up. And I think what I was looking for was stability. Was
Mm-hmm.
my initial was one of the reason that I went in, but my number one reason for going into the military was 9/11. As soon as 9/11 happened, I was like, I'm going in. And
Mm.
I went to the recruit station. I didn't have any issues getting in. It was a very smooth transition to go in, but actually I went into the military twice. I went to boot camp twice. My first time in boot camp, I was like, "Oh, girl, you lost your mind. What is you doing here?" And I was like, "I'm going home." I went home too, but then when I came back out, that's when 9/11 happened. Right after that, and then I was like, "Go in there and stay in there." And that's what I did. I went and I stayed, um, so I can get the stability that I need. And I was single. I didn't have any children. Wasn't married, and I went in there to travel the country to see different
Mm-hmm.
things in the world. So that was my number one reason for going, and I needed money, so I went.
Like, don't leave that part out.
I went. I needed some money.
You shared with me in our pre-interview that you
Mhm.
lost your mom,
Yes,
as a young child. What was that
yes.
like?
I lost her at 7 years old.
Mhm,
When it first happened, it was just like I I didn't know what to do. Like I was a child, so I became angry, and it might sound crazy, but I became angry at God for a while because I'm here. I am a child, and you say that you love me, and that God says that He's our provider, and everything. But I was like, how do you take a little girl's mom?
mhm,
I was like,
mhm,
wow, how does that happen? And I became rebellious after that. I became very rebellious because I didn't know how to. Then I didn't know it was trauma. I thought I was just being
mhm,
punished for something.
mhm,
But I became very rebellious because I didn't understand what I was going through. And that was like in 1989. So back then it was just like they didn't understand trauma like they understand trauma now. You didn't go
right.
to counseling back then like you go to counseling now. So it's just a parent, my dad trying to navigate life with two girls and being a widow. So, he was dealing with his own trauma from losing his wife. And here we go, you got two little girls. My sister and I just trying to deal with trauma from losing our mom. And I didn't know what to do. So I just started showing out. And now that I'm older, I'm grown, I understand that it wasn't showing out. That was the way that I was handling
Mhm,
trauma. That was how my brain
exactly.
processed trauma.
You said the right word. You were going through trauma
Mhm.
and did not have anyone to show you, to teach you, to help you to understand what trauma
Mhm.
is. And we can actually say that today, Jacqueline.
Yes.
Um, this is what really inspired me to create elevation in action, because my key mission in creating this podcast was to help individuals begin to understand, to normalize trauma,
Mm-hmm.
to understand that that it doesn't matter what, it could be something minor, like a little car accident,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody's safe, but because you got hit at this intersection,
Mm-hmm.
every time you go get close to that intersection, your body start tensing up,
Yep.
you start checking every little nick and cranny. That's, and I'm going to share more about the brain and how it stores, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
And that little girl needed understanding,
Yes.
and that little girl needed to understand why her love was searching for places to go,
Mm-hmm.
that was looking for her mom, and it was that anger was coming up because
Yep.
your heart couldn't find her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get it. Yeah. And just to be able to have someone to just explain that to you,
Correct.
and then to show you, just like what you created with sewing, to show
Mm-hmm.
you little unique ways of, hey, Jacqueline, we're going to go out and release butterflies to mom
Mm-hmm.
today,
Mm-hmm.
and just how special butterflies are. Or,
Right.
I
And
want
we.
you to write her a letter,
Mm-hmm.
showing different and unique ways for you to engage with her.
Correct. And that's
You
one
know,
thing that we don't understand. If we don't handle trauma when trauma is first presents itself, it's a cycle. It'll just continue to continue to continue. And that's where I started. My mom died, and then I became rebellious. And I was in a traumatic car accident, and I started not listening to my dad, and everything just started going downhill because at still a high school young lady, still didn't know how to process trauma. So my acting out was me processing trauma because I was going to get the attention either good, bad, or indifferent. It didn't matter how I
mhm.
got it. I just wanted it, and it stemmed from that 7-year-old girl.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, you chose the title for our segment
mhm,
today, PTS Doesn't Have Me, a
yes,
veteran's journey from child and military trauma to purpose. Why did that title jump out at you so quickly?
because I used to always say when I first got diagnosed, I was like, "Oh, I have PTSD." And that's literally what my mind processed all day long. I walked around moping. I walked around just in a funk, just pity party. That's what I'm gonna
Mhm.
call it. But then
Mhm.
when I changed my mindset and I started saying PTSD don't have me, that's when everything started turning around. Because as long as I kept saying I had it, it showed
Mhm.
up. But now that I switched my mindset, things started to look different for me. So, like, they diagnosed me with PTSD. They diagnosed me with military sexual trauma. They diagnosed me with anxiety. They diagnosed me with everything you probably can think of. But as long as I say I had those things, that's how I lived my life. I lived it as such. So, do I still have days? Do I still have triggers? Yes, I do. But
Mhm.
I wake up every morning knowing that yes, I may have those things, but those things don't have me.
I applaud you for that. Speaking on the military and childhood trauma,
Mhm.
kind of give us a little, you know, I want to say some summary of what occurred without,
Okay.
the
Right, right.
soft landing of what occurred, you know, with the sexual assault.
Mhm. So, I think what really the first thing, like I said, we're gonna 7 years old. So now you have this little girl that's looking for love in all the wrong places. Um, but then when it comes to the sexual trauma part, I always used to think, oh, I did something wrong. Oh, I wore the wrong things. Oh, my shirt was too short. Oh, my whatever the case may be. And I used to blame myself for the sexual trauma that happened to me. But as time went along, I started noticing there's nothing wrong with me. The person that did it, they don't want to have a problem. Because first of all, this is a child. This is an adult. I'm supposed to be your superior. Why are you using your rank? That's what the thing. Why are you using your rank to do these things? And now you have a soldier and you have a child that's saying, who is going to believe me?
Mhm.
Who's gonna believe that this even happened to me? You're just a little low ranking soldier. And I was like, I ended up saying something, but then I became embarrassed. So I started hiding. And then the acting out came again. So I was cussing out my supervisor. I wasn't going to work. I wasn't doing everything that I was supposed to do as a soldier because now I'm embarrassed because I've said something and I don't want anybody to look at me the wrong way. But if something happens to me, it happened, and there's no, I can't, you know, I shouldn't have to walk around on pins and needles, saying, "Oh, well, I'm gonna hide this." But then, as soon as I said something, I didn't just help myself; I helped other soldiers because all of a sudden they started saying that the same person did something to them, but they just never said anything.
In the military,
Mm-hmm.
roughly 1 in 3 women and
Mm-hmm.
1 in 50 men report military sexual trauma. And this is based on a screening through
Mm-hmm.
the Veterans Affairs, the Veteran Hospital. I'm saying it wrong. Please forgive me. And then when we look at the rate of childhood sexual assault in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, it suggests that roughly 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 13 to boys,
Mm-hmm.
um, every 20 experience sexual assault
Mm-hmm.
before turning 18.
Yes,
Before 18.
before 18. Mm-hmm. And they
And
don't know how to
so,
navigate it and tell anybody. So they hold it in. And I tell people all the time. I say, if you don't handle trauma, trauma gonna make you one two things. It's gonna make you a good adult or a bad adult. And until you handle it, you're gonna make decisions that's making you a bad adult. But once you handle it, you will make very wise decision. Because I know, because I'm a living witness. As long as I was holding on to that trauma, I was not a good friend. I was not a good anybody. And then as soon as I started dealing with it, then I became a better person.
mhm. But the key thing that you shared, though, as it pertains to the trauma, it brought up feelings of being shamed and
Mm-hmm.
embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
That's an automatic default that occurs.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part that is so prevalent, and I think I shared the data with you, is that especially for women, we automatically become silenced.
Yes.
Society has um, conditioned us.
Mm-hmm.
Family has conditioned us as women,
Mm-hmm.
as young girls, to silence our voice. Up to 70% of
Mm-hmm.
young girls are silenced.
Mm-hmm.
And then, based on the study that I was reading, how is that done? You know, Unfortunately, it was through, you know, forms of manipulation,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
reward, and if you do XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
and you get
Manipulation. And a lot of
right.
people get to, if you tell, no one's gonna believe you. Or
Hmm.
here's the deep one: if you tell, then I'm gonna take you out of here.
Absolutely.
And and if you're an adult that has a weak mind and a low self esteem, you're gonna do just what that person say. And even though that person is wrong and they're probably not gonna do anything to you, they're trying to save their self. Um, and that's what I was not going to do. I was not going to continue to be silent and let you walk around and just think that you're going to do it to the next person. And like I said, I ended up getting out of the military maybe a couple of months or so after that, because at that point I was like, this is it. I can't do this because, like I say, the military may seem like a big world, but it's not as big as it seems. Everyone knows everybody. It's a small community in a big world, but it
Mhm.
once it's out, it's out. It's just out, and everyone knows about it.
I want to share something with you. Here at Rediscover Me in our counseling, the one
Mm-hmm.
thing that we've always taught individuals that we work with in that personal development phase is that to strengthen their voice position.
Mm-hmm.
when I first got into the advocacy world, this is like during the time frame where I was interning at Scavasa and out in the community
Mhm.
talking to survivors and all of these things. And the biggest thing that came up for me was noticing the nature of how many women were silenced.
Mhm.
And see, you said something that was so key that I want to bring back to the
Okay.
surface for those that are listening and watching is that when we silence our voice, then it gives that perpetrator power.
Mhm.
Unknowing to us as women is that we do lose our
Mhm.
power at that
Yeah.
time. And we do um those feelings of shame and blame and guilt comes up
Mhm.
to make us feel like we did something wrong when we
Right.
didn't. But see, you took, and I just want to applaud you because you took a little bit of
Thank
your
you.
power back when
Mhm.
you spoke up. That was the beginning of you taking your power back. That was the beginning
Mhm.
of you advocating, and your courage gave others the
Mhm.
courage they needed to
Mhm.
speak up against this particular individual. And
Mhm.
so I just had to take a moment and just give you your flowers because that
Thank
was
you.
just too much for us to just kind of scale over.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that the data and this conversation will help individuals to know that your voice matter. And you, if
Mhm.
you're around me, you're gonna hear me say your voice matter. Your voice is
Yes.
power,
Mhm.
and so how do we take that back? So, I just had to say that. So thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
allowing me to just be Juanita. So I want to you made a statement. You shared that PTS didn't fully surface until years later.
Mhm.
What do you want listeners to understand about delayed trauma response?
So when it happens, you have to handle it immediately. I thought my trauma was, hey, I just had a baby. I had a baby in January. By the time December was here, I lost it. And come to find, I thought it was what is it called? Like baby blues, as they call it. I thought it was that. And my doula at the time, she was like, no, this is not that. She said, this is bigger than that. And my body felt different. And I was like, what is really going on? So I took the initiative. I called the VA hospital. I was living in North Carolina and I say something is wrong. I said, I need to admit myself. I was like, do you have a bed? And they found me a bed. They had a bed open at the VA hospital, and I went. I went. I didn't budge. I was like, something is wrong with me, and I went to the hospital. They checked me in. I stayed, um, and I got some. I got care. Care was very good. I got some much needed rest on top of that. But then I had to ask them. I said, I've been out of the army since 2011. This is 2020. What happened? She said, now that you're settled, now that life is going good, it needs to let you know, hey, I didn't go anywhere. I'm still here. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, what? She said, yeah. She said, that's how trauma works. It doesn't want you to forget that it didn't go anywhere. And I was like, she said, you never handle it. I said, no, ma'am, I never handled it. She said, that's why it popped back up.
Mm-hmm.
So I handle it. And that's why today I have Sew and Heal. Because when I start feeling those moments, I find something to do. So delayed trauma is not fun because everything that was behind you shows back up and it shows back up with a vengeance.
I'm going to talk about that. So I'm going to skip over
Hmm.
and invite you to share with us more about Sew and Heal.
Hmm.
Um, just give us you know, that thing that inspired you. So just tell us a little bit about Sew and Heal.
Okay, so in 2021 or two, um I was going to the VA and I still was going to the VA, getting my counseling, doing everything that I was supposed to do, taking my medicine. And I'm just like, okay, this is working, but this ain't it. So I'm crafty. I love to use my hands, and I made t-shirts. I done every craft that you can fathom. I just could. I was like, I have to do something. Um, And then one day I was like, I'm gonna try this sewing machine. Never sewed before. Just went to the store, picked up a sewing machine, went and got some fabric, and I started doing my little research. And then I was like, I'm gonna try a scrunchie. That was the first thing I sewed was a hair scrunchie, and I was like, oh wow, this was easy. And I was sewing, so I started cutting out some scrunchies, and I kind of put them to the side. And then one morning I woke up, it's like, I'm going back in. I was about to start sewing some stuff. And that was like when I was still in the midst of really battling and coping with the trauma showing back up. And I sewed and I was sewing and throwing. I was like throwing behind me. And I stopped and I looked back. I was like, I counted it. It was over 100 scrunchies. I was just sewing and putting them behind me. And I was like, oh my goodness, this feels amazing. And I started with the scrunchies, and then I graduated to doing some other things, and now I make clothes. So some of the clothes I wear, they were the ones that I make myself, and I was just like, I got to share this with somebody. At first, I wasn't going to share it. I was like, I'm just going to keep this to myself. But as time went along, I was like, no, there are some other women out there that needs this. This I call it a coping skill. They need this
Mhm.
coping skill because it's a very good one. And I didn't have a name for it. I just kind of just went with it. And then one day it fell in my lap. It was like sew and heal. I was like, what? I was like, okay. So I kind of just ran with it. I didn't plan to make it a nonprofit. I just planned it just to kind of just go with it. But it became a nonprofit. It became I have board members. It became bigger than what I really thought it was going to be. And um it just amazed me when we make one little simple thing and we go to classes, they're so excited. Even if it's a scrunchie, they are excited. They're excited about something that they made. And that makes me feel good knowing that I helped the next person. And some of them have never used a sewing machine a day in their life. And they are so grateful. Because when I started doing this sewing, I wanted to invent something without reinventing the wheel. So as I did my research and I looked at my statistics and I looked at everything, I was like, there is no such thing out here as Sew and Heal. There is no such thing as an organization that teaches women and young girls how to sew as a form of a coping skill that has dealt with trauma. So I went with it.
Mm. I'm
Yeah.
sitting over here just like in awe, listening to what you're sharing because, and I say that because, as you know, when I train, we try to pull as much natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so often, for everyone that's listening, so often individuals think that, hey, I got to go and take medication. I have to be up under a doctor for the rest of my life. I'm not, if you are in a place where that is needed, do what you need to
Mm-hmm.
do. But for some, just finding a way to express yourself, a way
Mm-hmm.
to relax your brain. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
You were in a place of peace, and
Mm-hmm.
that place was applying creativity that just drew even more out of
Yes.
you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It did. And I want to add what you're saying about the medicine. So when I first the trauma first came back, I was on a lot of medicine. And it was doing something to my body. I would always feel weird. My stomach would always be upset. I was like, I've been on this medicine for a year. Like, what is really going on? And I went back to my doctor. I was like, we have to do something. I had to advocate for myself because other than that, they were going to keep writing prescriptions and prescriptions. I was like, I need to come off some of this medicine. I said, I need the one that's going to work for me. That's the only one I want to take. The one that's going to work. I need something that's going to help me with all three things. Um, and we had to do our research, and it took trial and error. But I went from 4 to 1 because everything else was just messing up my body, and it was messing up my system. And I was just like, I can't, I'm always sick on the stomach. It was just not working. So we went to one medicine, but you have to advocate for yourself when you go to the doctor because if you don't, they're only going to say, these are your symptoms, and they're going to go off what you tell them, and they're going to go on about their day. So you have to say, hey, this is not working. I need to try something different because if not, they're just going to do their job. That's to keep writing a prescription and send you on your merry way.
Mhm. So tell us about your new book.
Okay. So the healing stitch. So what I did with this book was I took every sewing tool that we use, the pin, the ironing board, the iron, everything you could think of that we use in sewing, and I broke it down for mental health. So my favorite tool that's in the book is the seam ripper. So we use the seam ripper to rip out threads. When we make a mistake. And then as you read down on the bottom of the page, it shows you how we take the seam ripper and we can use it in mental health. So basically, when it comes to mental health, when life is just you just life just life, and it done dealt you a bad hand for this day, I mentally take me a break and I said, I close my eye and I just mentally start ripping that day apart, and I start over. Um, what's the our pin cushion, which we put our pins in, um when it comes to, and then we use the pin cushion so we don't puncture ourselves. So the cushion is very soft, and it's so when you think of it, I say, okay, I'm having this bad day. It's a very sharp day. So I mentally think of that pin cushion, and I was like, okay, you're allowed to lay on this. You're allowed to put a pin right here and just let the rest of the day go. And that's what I just prayed about it. It's just something that dropped in my lap. And I was like, why are we doing this? But then I thought about it. You're talking about sewing, you're talking about healing. So you're using these tools every day. If it's fabric, if it's some type of the sewing machine, no matter what it is, you're using these every day. So when life is life in, take those tools that you use every day and use it for mental health. And that's how I ended up doing the healing stitch.
That is so creative.
Thank you.
Something as simple, and I'm gonna tell you, I had a little plastic. My grandson needed a button sewn on his
Mhm.
uniform, and I have my little cute little sewing kit that I just bought from the Dollar Tree or the Dollar
Mhm.
General, and I was so irritated because I'm used to my mom's little metal.
Yes.
Um, what is that tip called? Thimble.
The thermal. Mhm.
And there's this little plastic two part, and I'm like, what's up with this? I had a hard time with it. I didn't like it, but to be able to take these little tools
Mhm.
and that shows the creativity of your brain, and I can't wait to pull Brittany up so I can share. But when you can just engage in
Mhm.
in that space, it does wonders for the brain. It does wonders
Yes.
for the body. It is truly, guys, I'm gonna tell you, make certain you go out and get this book, The Healing Stitch, by Jacqueline Odom. This book, all the proceeds go back into Sew and Heal. As you've already
It
heard me
does.
share, she actually take those proceeds. She goes out to military bases. She goes out
Mhm.
into the community. It'll help her buy more material, such as cloth,
Mhm.
such as whatever the needs are to thread, buttons, all of those
Yes.
things that are needed. And so I encourage you to make certain that you support her organization, Sew and Heal. And if you are a person that want to learn how to sew, it doesn't mean
Yes.
that you have to have anything. You just want to learn how to sew. Please make
Mhm.
certain that you contact her. Let me put um, her contact information up. I want to make certain that you can stay in contact, reach out, make certain that you connect, purchase her book. When you go on the website, you should be able to see it. Um, if not, email her.
And it's on
Text her.
Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Amazon. So the healing stitch. I love it. I love your pattern. I love your color. Well, those are my colors. So I love your colors. Our colors are teal. And so perfect color with a little splash. So I love the colors and all. Because something as simple as color
Yes.
impacts the brain. So I know you
It,
probably, people like, she keep talking about the brain. That's all I talk about.
the
So
brain is the important part.
it's the
If
most
you
important
have to
part.
fix the
Yeah.
brain, I mean, that's why you was the topic is PTSD don't have me. I literally had to fix my mindset to
Mhm.
come out of what was holding me hostage.
Mhm.
Trauma will hold you in jail, and you're not even in a physical jail. You have to change your mindset. And I was that girl. Ooh, I was that. Oh, we about to have a pity party as soon as my feet hit the floor. I was her. This happened to me. I was in the military, and yes, let me share my story. But Dr. Juanita, I used to run Sew and Heal off of trauma. I did. I
Mhm.
ran Sew and Heal off of trauma, and it ran that way. But when I started switching my mindset and switching it around, things started going in the right direction because I no longer ran it off of trauma. I ran it for trauma.
I love that. You giving out so many little nuggets. I'm like, ooh, uh, I can't wait to go back and watch the replay so I can catch all those little nuggets. That is so exactly. The thing about trauma is it's never one and done.
Mm-mm.
And people, when someone say, you don't um you're gonna have it for the rest of you will. This is the thing.
Yes.
You will have it
Mm-hmm.
until the day you die.
Mm-hmm.
But let me give you the caveat to it. You can manage it and not
Yes.
allow it to
To
manage
manage
you.
you. You're right. Mm-hmm.
That's the part that we train. This is why we train so hard. This is why we have all of these brain conversations. This is why we
Mm-hmm.
want to normalize trauma so people can understand when you are educated
Mm-hmm.
about what's going on inside of your body. You heard her share about her body.
Mm-hmm.
When you're educated and you can share about what's going on in your body, then you can begin to be proactive instead
Right.
of reactive.
Correct.
And so, wow, you're blowing my head up over here. I want to say that because this sometimes we think after something happens to us or
Mm-hmm.
we grew up in an environment and like this is all that I have left when that
Mm-mm.
is far from the case.
Yes.
It is so far.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can ever get in a place where you can quiet your mind and just hear what is in your soul,
Mm-hmm.
so much will come out. And
Yes.
the amazing part about what's going to come out is it's going to be so unique that only you can do it.
Yes. Yes.
I just
You're
want to applaud you there.
you're right. And I want to talk about with Soul and Heal. Like you're creating a safe space. We've had sessions where it went from us laughing and talking to us crying, and it's okay.
Mhm.
I am
Mhm.
here for it. I am here for it because you need. There's an as on this journey from the time I got out to the time now. There's not much safe space for female veterans, and I'm just being honest. It's thin. They're out there, and as I'm on this nonprofit journey, I've seen other organizations, and there are female veterans that caters to the community for those that are in sexual trauma or whatever they may have they're going through. But other than that, it's slim. It's very slim to none. So my goal is I don't want you to feel alone. Um, I don't want you to be a part of the 22 a day, which is the statistic for, if I'm not mistaken, for the veterans. There's 22 veterans. Yeah, 22 veterans a day commit suicide. I don't want you to be a part of that. So if I can help you not become a part of that, and if it's just one person, I've succeeded. I've done what I was supposed to do. So if you want, my phone is always open. My phone ring, I pick it up, I answer it. And we can talk about whatever. It could be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're going to talk about whatever it is to make you feel better. Because I've been in a point to where I wanted to, take my life away from me. I've been there. I've done all the above. So it's not like I'm running a nonprofit off of what I've heard. I'm running it off of what I've been through, and that makes the difference. With me running Sew and Heal.
Thank you so much for that, Jacqueline.
You're welcome.
Let's I'm going to shift back over. You shared
Mhm.
that spiritually, you said you had to be delivered.
Yes.
Spiritually, you had to
Mhm.
be delivered. What did surrender look like for you in real life, not just in language?
Um, it wasn't pretty. Deliverance isn't pretty. It's tough. It for me. It wasn't a pretty sight. I was my first time ever being. I was in church. I was
Mhm.
in church, and I was on that floor, and I told everyone I felt like a snake. You ever see a snake crawl? And that's literally how I felt. I was at first I was embarrassed, but then I had to realize that it wasn't about anybody around me. It was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And um and after that night, my whole mindset changed, and the journey still is, I'm still on that journey to being a, a better me, a better person. But deliverance, it, I don't even know what, I can't even put it into words, but it was it was a journey.
Well, now, if since you can't put that in words,
Mhm.
is it possible for you to share in words what healing look like and feel like for you?
Yes. Hmm. So my first thing is self-care. That's my big self-care. You cannot care for anybody else until you cared for yourself. And that was me before I actually started. I was doing for everything and everybody, and on the inside I was toe up. My inside,
Mhm,
I was sick. Um every time I was like, I can't get well. I would go to the emergency room. They would be like, I was like, what's wrong with me? And everybody would keep saying, nothing is wrong, nothing is wrong. But then I had to realize I had to take care of myself. And as long as I wasn't taking care of myself, I was always there. But as soon as I started taking
mhm.
care of myself and making advocating was my number one thing as well. Advocating for Jacqueline, I started healing. Because I was pouring from an empty cup, and the more I poured, the more dehydrated I got.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You see, I'm sitting here like, oh, wow. I want to share something with you as well as our viewing audience. I want to
Mhm.
introduce my girl, Brittany. Say hi,
Hey,
Brittany.
Brittany.
We have been listening to Miss Jacqueline share her story. And as you also heard me state, the biggest thing we want to do is normalize trauma and help you to understand what happened when she went through the loss of her mom at 7 years old,
Mhm,
when she was assaulted as a child through childhood sexual assault, when she also went through military
mhm,
sexual assault, it impacted her brain.
mhm,
It impacted her brain. And there are three primary areas of the brain that controls or call that actually this the attack actually came in and stored. So as she when she said, "Hey, I was acting out," no, it was her brain
mhm,
doing this thing called protecting her. And so a lot of people, and so before I give you the three parts, the biggest thing that you I want you to know is that your brain is so amazingly designed, and its key job is to keep you safe.
mhm,
Period. Its job is to keep you safe no matter what. And so when a person starts acting out, something has entered in through those five senses that cause the brain to kind of spiral out because it's looking for safety. It's
mhm,
looking to make certain she's protected. How did it know something was going off? So basically, the first thing I want you to know is this word called amygdala. And we define the amygdala by our little lizard called um,
mhm,
Amy. And so in the back of our brain is where Amy is stored. And I want you to think of Amy as your file cabinet. So everything that you see, everything that you hear, everything that you've gone through is in your little file cabinet. And so Amy goes in there when the body senses something, and where will it sense it? Amy is that fear factor, but this part here, well,
mhm,
excuse me, Amy is the memory, but this part here, our limbic system, that little joker is attached to our vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve that's in our body. And so that vagus nerve is sensing the body, it's sensing all parts of the brain. And so what happened is when it send information to Jacqueline, then I call this person here hippie, hippity
mhm,
hippo, because this is your hippocampus.
mhm,
Hippie and Amy are working together and they are loud. And so they start. jumping up all over the place, and I call them jacked up. These the double mint twins. They doing stuff in your brain. And so as they are spiraling out, acting out her anxiety, because what is happening is the limbic system, or the warning is going off. And so hippie is saying, hey Amy, this is going on, this is what I see, this is what's happening, safety, 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 keep her safe. What's, and so it's looking, so then Amy is in the file cabinet going, is it this, is it this, is it
Oh,
this?
wow.
And so this is how, she say, hey, she knew when she got out of bed that day was not going to be good. Why? So when she knew that and she was saying it, then it was rewiring her neuroplasticities to look for danger. And
Mm.
so the amazing part of it is, because these two parts of the body is acting all crazy. Daisy, which is our frontal lobe, the front part of her brain, was saying, no, Jack, you're safe, sis. Calm down. You're
Mhm.
okay. She didn't hear it, because we call it Daisy, the dolphin, because she's so soft. She was trying to send information back to these two doublemint twins saying, hey, calm down.
Mhm.
But they didn't hear her. They didn't listen because they're loud. And so that's where the anxiety came up. But now, when she started speaking, when she started sewing, when she started putting her mind in creative mode, it was calming these two doublemint twins down. And it was
Mhm.
giving her mental clarity. And it was making her feel more safe and secure, because guess what? As she worked, she was breathing properly. And she was speaking, because you ain't gonna do no type of work unless you're like, okay, something can go here and something can go there.
Mhm.
So she was stimulating her brain in such a way that it was taking off all of those. It was, taking her out of that space and putting her in another space. So basically that vagus vein was being calmed down. And so it was sending signals all over her body. She's safe, she's safe. And it also took the doublemint twins and said, hey, you can chill out. You can come off of the watchtower.
Mhm.
She's okay. So
I like that.
yes. So this is why we want to bring it in, so we can actually see what is happening here. And so,
Hmm.
Jacqueline, what do you think about Brittany and her job and her role as to what she comes in and do?
I like that the way you explained it. Because it does make you feel like when you're in a flight or fight, your
Mm-hmm.
brain, you cannot think straight. Everything is
Right.
going all over, and you're making bad decisions. Ain't none decisions
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, Now that you explained, I was like, okay, that makes sense because something's out of whack. And
Mm-hmm.
I literally used to feel like I was going crazy in my head.
Right.
And my
Right.
husband always used to tell me, get out of your own head. Now that you explained, I understood. He meant that. Get out of my own head because doing more damage to myself than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
And I thank you for that.
this is what we teach. This is how we train with Brittany, along with a lot of other little things. Jacqueline, I just want to say thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being here with us today. And so I want to remind our audience, that first of all, in today's conversation, if it stirred you in any way, if
Mhm.
something came up, for you, again, the same way that I started out is the same way I want to end. I want you to make certain that you pause. I want to make certain that you ground yourself. I want to make certain that you are practicing deep breathing,
Mhm.
and to also know that all the information that's on the screen, all that information is, so if you need support, that support is there. We have, if you're a military soldier, we have the DOD
Building. Mhm.
um, contact number, which is 877-955-5247. They also have an online chat, which is safehelpline.org. You can also, for the VA, we have 1-800-MY-VA-411. That's immediate help. And also, for those that are civilians, we have RAIN. Their number is 1-800-656-4673. You can also text HOPE to 64673. Again, Jacqueline, thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
here.
Thank you.
As always, you just, great conversation, great awareness for those that are listening in. And, um, and I want to, let you know that um, I'm proud of you and your
Thank
accomplishment
you.
with school and your organization and all those that you are helping and supporting. And
Thank you so
so
much.
so with that, I'm going to close out. If you can just hold on one moment. Thank you all
Okay.
for joining us. Please be sure to reach out to Jacqueline if you have, you want to make a donation, if you
Mhm.
want to purchase a book, if you want to just come and take some lessons, please be sure to reach out to her, her website, everything all of that will be put in our community, the Rediscover Me community. I'll also be sharing clips and all next week. So be on the lookout for that. And we also, I forgot to share this because our conversation was so rich, but we also, if you want to download um, a worksheet to use as a guide to take your own personal assessment, we took Miss Jacqueline's story and we created a workbook that you can actually download. And I'll be sharing that information along with her videos and her clips. So you can actually get that information. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to Rediscover Me, um, wi.org, or you can contact us through social media. We look forward to having you. And again, thank you so much for being here for Elevation in Action, Truth, Trauma, and Transformation.